Okay. Twitch.
1, 2,
Facebook.
3. Okay. Feels like a plane taking off.
Yeah.
Which is funny that came to mind considering the landing issues we've had. Okay, let's see. Is it up? Do you see it?
I don't see it on Instagram yet.
Okay. It says it's going. Oh, that's because I haven't pressed it yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shoot. See, here it is.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's
we
not
need
right.
it. We need it more vertical.
Okay. Well, what do you want to do? I would just say figure it out next time.
Figure it out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just try to stay here this time. Dang.
Oh, what?
Let's see if it changes. Oh, no. Okay, let's see. No, it didn't change. Good morning. Good morning. We're figuring some stuff out. Wonder why that happened. Yeah. Oh. OBS plugin. I don't know. All right, I'm going to do it one more time and that's it. I bet if should I end it and then restart it?
No, with
No.
everybody joining. Let's just try.
Try it
Tomorrow.
later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Class with Kate, where I take you to school on all things restoring relationships. That was Joel. Joel is my video editor extraordinaire. He helps me with all this stuff. Today, we're trying to get Instagram to look better. We're trying to clip the top of the whiteboard and the bottom. Anyway, who cares? But that's what we're figuring out. Today, we're going to talk about our call yesterday. So if you're not familiar, I've just started actually posting on this on Instagram. I did yesterday. And so I don't know if you guys even knew, but every single day, well, not every single day, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, I'm streaming live. And it's every day is kind of a different thing happening. Some days there are callers, like yesterday. Some days we're going to talk about the callers, like today. And then other days I'm going to be responding to comments and videos, and just again with the goal of providing as much free education as possible out there. I'm streaming on Facebook, Twitch. Twitch still makes me laugh. I'm streaming on Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube. That's the 4 we've got right now. We'll get to TikTok eventually, but for now, this is what we're doing. So let me move back over. Okay. The other thing is today. So what we're going to do is talk about the call yesterday. I will summarize the call with Kay, and then we're going to talk about the specifics. If you want to go back and watch that and then watch this later, you can. The live is available on my Facebook and YouTube. And then next week it'll be available on Spotify, Apple, etc. So we're just kind of getting the wheels turning. It's not all streamlined yet as much as we would like, but we will get there. This is a process, and I appreciate your understanding. So let's talk about Kay. Yesterday, I had a call with Kay. Also, if you want to sign up to have a call, you can go to my website, codependencykate.com. Yesterday, we spoke with Kay, who has been married for 23 years. She has 2 sons. They're teenagers, 14 and 16. And she was calling basically, we never know kind of the direction that these calls are going to go, because I can have my agenda and what I hear from what they're saying, and they can have their own like agenda too of what they need. And so yesterday Kay called, she gave me a summary of her situation, and then let me actually write this on the board. She gave me a summary of her situation, and then as we were talking, the questions kind of revealed themselves. So we're going to write here, let's talk about Kay. Okay. So how many people relate to that situation that Kay had, where she's been married for 23 years, she's had a therapist the whole time, she has neurodivergent kids, they've gotten therapy this whole time, and so everyone kind of in a bottom-up way is being taken care of emotionally with their needs, their desires, their emotions, like functioning in life. They have the support there. They've been to therapy. How many people have resonated with that, where they have been to therapy and the issues are not changing? So if you listen to kind of I think it was like a 50-minute call I had with Kay yesterday, I read some of the comments and it was like, we all relate to that. Like so many women in particular relate to that situation where I have been to therapy, my kids have been to therapy, and nothing is changing. That's kind of the summary of today. I'm actually going to write that here. We've all been to therapy. And nothing is changing. What do I do now? So if you listened to that call yesterday, Kay originally called in because she liked my content around taking a top-down approach to her marriage. She's in a heterosexual relationship with her husband, and we've been to therapy and nothing's changing, nothing's working. What do I do? She told me also on the call that her therapist, this therapist, who's their family therapist, had a come to Jesus moment with her and her husband back in October. So October 2025, they had this come to Jesus moment where the therapist, the psychologist was like, you guys have been doing this for a year and nothing is changing. It's time to do something else. And I don't think Kay really got too specific about maybe what the therapist told her to do with that, but they had a plan where, that's not true. They had a plan where in January, if nothing had changed, then the husband would move out. And then at the same time, this therapist is going on maternity leave. So the therapist is going to be gone from January to April. And so Kay's question was, what do I do between now and April? He was supposed to have moved out. He was supposed to have made these changes, and nothing is happening. And so what do I do now? Let me see here. Okay. So what we ended up talking about was why therapy wasn't working. And we kind of left, if you listen to the call, I was like, okay, if you see me go ballistic on my social media the next couple of days because of this main issue, like, don't be surprised. Because here's the deal. How do I even, I was literally sitting with this, obviously, since the call yesterday and until now, of how do I address this? Why doesn't therapy work in these situations with a husband that is learning skills? Maybe they're doing things differently in therapy, but outside of therapy, they're really not doing anything different. What is the therapist's role in that? What is the model, the therapy model they're using? What does that have to do with it? And I've been stewing about this and how do I talk about this in a calm, regulated way? Because it goes back to, for me, why I even started posting online. So anyway, out of all the things that Kay talked about, we could have talked about, okay, here's how you take a top-down approach with him. And we kind of touched on that of like, why are you still doing his laundry? Why are you still cooking him food? She did say like, we're sleeping in separate bedrooms now. And I was like, okay, that's great. Now we need to focus on kind of the bigger picture. And this goes, and she kind of landed on, why are we using like EFT? So let's go into EFT for a minute. If you guys know, I have endorsed this therapy model, emotionally focused therapy. I think it's great. And it's the closest model I've come to where like it helps couples get to an emotional level. That's kind of the point, is like when we can look at our dynamic, we can understand who pursues, who withdraws. Like we can kind of watch our dance play out. And then we can work on it so that ideally both of us can change the role that we play in these interactions. So that's the premise of emotionally focused therapy, is how do I look at myself and my role? How do I understand themselves and their role? And we both change our roles so that we can ideally change this dance and make it more functional and loving and vulnerable and connected. So emotionally focused therapy is one of my preferred therapy modalities. I haven't been formally trained in it, but I've read the book. There's a book called Hold Me Tight. Sue Johnson is the creator of emotionally focused therapy. She recently passed away, I think, in the past year. That's neither here nor there. But the point being, and this has also come up in my content this past week from people, is as I've been talking about a top-down approach, as I've been talking about being authoritarian with your husband specifically, your partner that cannot self-reflect, that cannot take accountability for themselves in the relationship. Empathy, understanding, grace, couples therapy, all that shit only gets you so far. And so what I've been encouraging people to do is to take a top-down approach, which is like, stop worrying about what's on the inside that's happening with them. Stop even worrying about the inside of yourself and just have these kind of boundaries around behavior you will and won't tolerate. And some resistance to that I've gotten in my comments is, why is my therapist telling me to do a bottom-up approach then? Why in emotionally focused therapy are we focused on how the other person is feeling? Why are we doing that? Why is this so rampant in therapy that our therapist is not telling me, hey, don't like, his insight is not going to get him to change behavior. From you need a top-down approach. And for him, he needs a bottom-up approach with you because you can self-reflect. But for you, this is going to look very different. So why is that happening? Like, why are therapists doing that? And that's what's like kept me up at night in general. And honestly, again, part of my own story is coming online and filling in these gaps. Because I remember being in therapy school, being trained to be a therapist, learning about all these therapy modalities and being like, okay, cool. This is going to help me treat this issue. But what happened, but I kind of learned and was thinking about this as I was in school of like, okay, so basically couples therapy works when you have two people that are accountable and two people willing to work. Okay, like, cool. Like, therapy is going to be great for people that want to be there. That like makes sense. But then because I'm a student and I'm online and I'm on TikTok, and this was during COVID too, so like we have all this time. I'm on TikTok and I'm like, couples therapy really, like, that's, people even getting to couples therapy is not the point, because couples therapy is 1 hour a week, at best. Like, it's expensive. It's, on top of the lives people lead, who has time to be sitting there going through their shit every week, who has more than an hour to be doing this. So I'm like, well, what happens outside of couples therapy? And what happens like before, so, Because a lot of people are willing to go to couples therapy. They're willing to do the work at like in results of an ultimatum. So I'm like, okay, that's short term. That doesn't work. So basically, I'm kind of deconstructing couples therapy and its effectiveness while I'm in therapy school. So this was like also, I don't know how much I've talked about this before, but that was a really, really tough time. If anyone's deconstructed things in general, you've deconstructed from your parents being the authority over you. You've deconstructed maybe from religion. You've deconstructed from, I've even deconstructed from being a therapist and how like that's not really part of my identity. Like I've shared this in a little bits before, but like therapists themselves are not ultimately the authority on your life, and they're not the authority in general. Nobody has mistreated me more. This is an extreme statement, but I guess the way to say it is no one has like treated me worse when they should have when they have all the tools to treat me well than therapists. Okay? Like I was a student in therapy school having all these ideas, having all these questions, and getting so much resistance from therapists themselves. And that like should not be the case. Like, so anyway, I've deconstructed from like even belonging in this group and even identifying as that. And so if you are in a deconstruction, so anyway, that was like my therapy school experience, was I was like deconstructing kind of from all of these systems as I'm becoming part of the system. So it was like total mind fuck. And anyway, so that's for me, my personal journey, why I started posting online was I was like, couples therapy, and all of the therapists I see online, they talk about stuff that works only in couples therapy, only when you're facilitated by a professional, and only when there's a safe space. People don't have those safe spaces at home. And they also don't have that help at home. I kind of joked with Kay on the call yesterday that I was like, I wish I could be with you in your home. Like, because that's kind of what it takes. Like, it takes that level of intention and effort and help, because this stuff is it's so micro in all of these interactions. And so anyway, that's some context for me as to why I come online, because I agree. Like, and I also, if you're an estranged parent watching this, you need to know that I agree with a lot of your assessments of therapists in general. Like, it's not a black or white thing to me. And so I get it in a sense. Like, therapists are not the ultimate authority. You're right about that. Therapists also are very limited. You're right about that. We actually saw this with Kay in a way. And not to say I'm like automatically taking her side, but I also am and I'm not, because like the therapist is in the authority position. And Kay's experience is what ultimately matters, right? The impact is what matters, not the intent, not what was said or not said by the therapist, but like what is actually landing here. That's what actually matters from a therapist's standpoint. So all to say is that Kay and I kind of landed, okay, so how did we connect over her story? What is there to learn from her story? And we kind of ended with emotionally focused therapy is not the right model for couples therapy if you're in a relationship with someone that is not actively doing the work on their own. And we need to actually look at this more with a magnifying glass, because like in Kay's situation, her husband was going to therapy, right? Like, but that's not a box to be checked, where she was like, he loosely goes bi-weekly. So twice a month, he's loosely going. But then when something happens at work, he doesn't go. How many of you are in this situation? So many people. And this is why I am in this like mode, in this online space of filling in these gaps of, okay, then we need to deconstruct that therapy itself, right, is not the end all be all, because it takes someone actually doing the work. Like, therapy does not mean enlightenment. Okay? Therapy does not mean enlightenment. We hear this so much nowadays. I see it online. Like, you need to go to therapy. Like, get a therapist. Like, it's an insult almost. Like, I can tell when someone doesn't have a therapist. And the thing is that therapy doesn't necessarily equal enlightenment, because it's not a passive process. Like, just going to therapy, someone has to willingly engage. Okay. So there's two parts to like therapy working is like, yes, a good therapist. Yes, a relationship. Yes, the right model. Yes, all of those things. And this person has to be willing and engaged in the process and like bought into it. And so I walk a fine line on my page and with my content of like not victim blaming, not saying, okay, it's on the woman. You know, we're talking about this heterosexual relationship. We're talking about Kay. It's not on the woman to create or like that she's responsible for the man changing. That is 1,000% not true whatsoever. Kay has grounds, legal grounds even, and like probably, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, right? So like check that. I don't know. But Kay has grounds to leave the relationship at any point in time. She could leave right now, you know? Like I hope my page isn't a place of like another echoing the like, hey, if you just do this, then your relationship will change. Like, hey, if you're just more feminine, your relationship will change. Hey, you're too in your masculine. Hey, you're too codependent. So like it's complex. And I know I've actually made a lot of videos. People have told me this and they've clocked it where I have kind of said things along those lines. And it's a really hard, it's a complex thing where Kay is not responsible for her husband changing. Kay is responsible for worrying about herself and her kids. When it comes to the relationship, this is my opinion of what Kay's responsibility is. Because what we need to remember is that two people in a relationship can have a very different experience of that relationship. Right? Like in couples therapy, a lot of times what'll happen, you know, because it's a safe space, it's facilitated by me. Like a lot of times what happens is that the wife will end up being like shocked at the low level of insight her husband has, you know, like when it'll actually come out and like we're talking about things and like things that he says, the wife, you know, can say, I didn't know you felt that way. Like it just can be kind of shocking to be faced with reality for how little like this person's different experience of the relationship essentially and their level of insight. When we're attached to people, when we even feel connected with them, we can kind of assume oneness on these levels. It's really hard to hold two truths at a time. Like two contradicting truths that like he doesn't know shit. He actually hasn't worked on himself for 1 second in his life until our relationship. And even then it's been like pulling teeth. So he's really not done anything compared to what I have done, compared to even what is normal, what is expected. He hasn't done shit. And people don't realize this until therapy too, because they're not able to have these conversations again, because he is so resistant to them, so in denial, so all this stuff. And so because of that, again, therapy, it can be a very revealing space to the reality of the situation. And so all to say is like, we need to assess the reality of the situation. He is not doing the work. He hasn't done any of the work. Yeah, he's had the support. He's had the resources, but he's not enlightened to do the work. And so anyway, going back to what I'm saying, that Kay is not responsible. And let me put a pin in that real quick to say that I'm not talking only about Kay. I'm talking about the archetype of Kay at this point, because I don't know her, right? Like the call yesterday was a one-time situation. I don't know her from the past. I'm not going to meet with her again in the future. So it's like we're riding the bus together and she's telling me the story and I'm listening, you know? So that's like the context is I want you to relate to Kay and take what parts of it that relate to you and apply them to your situation and what I'm saying. So all to say is that Kay is responsible for her husband changing. She is responsible for the emotional tone and the energy of the relationship. If she is unhappy, if she is thinking about moving out, if she is talking with lawyers and she's going back at home and like pretending everything's okay to keep the peace, that is deceptive and misleading. And this is also a tricky thing to say because a lot of times women don't feel safe enough to like actually be unhappy and actually display that. So that's where this men, I wish they would freaking understand that like it's different. Like, oh, why didn't she tell me? Oh, she acted like everything was okay. Oh, she said she was happy with the relationship one time, you know, like, or even 10 times. Like, but like he's under this delusion that like nothing's going to happen, nothing is going to change. So all I'm here to say is that it's in Kay's best interest and the relationship's best interest to live in her truth on a daily basis of the future, like, and what she's willing to do. And I've also been learning, people give me this feedback a lot of the time that this can actually be unsafe from a legal standpoint. Like if you want to move out, if you're just like, oh, you know what? Like I'm not doing this with you and you want to move out, that it may not be in your legal best interest to do that because it can show like there's two conflicting interests that like if you're trying to repair and restore the relationship, that can look bad legally on the back end. So that's why I'm telling people like, don't just listen to me. Don't just take what I'm saying as face value, okay? You are the authority of your own life. Also, follow divorce lawyer accounts. Like, please put them in the chat. Like, please get your own information about what is safe for you. Knowledge is power, and you need that data in your life to make the decisions that are right for you. Information's power. That's why you're here. And I'm sure you're already doing this, you know? Like, I don't mean to be patronizing about it. I'm sure you're already doing it. But all to say is that from a therapeutic kind of emotional standpoint, if you're legally, financially, physically safe, for you, we need to align your insides with your outsides. And that also has the benefit of, and then with him in the relationship. So there's 3 parts, right? Inside, outside, and behavior. But then 3, the tone in the relationship. Like it requires honesty. It requires honesty. It requires being like, you know, in these moments when he's doing his whatever, like in the moments, you know, like when nothing is happening, being like, you know what, I'm actually not happy now. Like I'm still not happy, even though you're not actively, you know, doing something terrible, even though we're not actively in conflict, the weight of the neglect is heavy in this moment. And I'm feeling it. And he's going to be like, well, why didn't you say something earlier? All this shit, this blaming shit, this emotional abuse shit. In these moments where nothing is happening, that's when you feel the neglect. That's when it's happening. And so that's when things need to be said. We need to burst the bubble of the mentality of like, oh, just because nothing is actively bad doesn't mean everything is okay. You know, the absence of war is not peace. So anyway, going back to Kay, that was like kind of where I was pushing is like, we need to like be brainwashing him almost of the fact that like things are not okay and it's his problem. Like, and not to say that we actually believe that he's the problem. Kay obviously doesn't believe that because she's been to therapy. She's looking at herself. She has support with her kids. Like she's actively learning online. You know what I mean? So she doesn't ultimately believe that he is the problem. She sees the complexity of the problem. The broken wheel on the car is him though. They're still stuck in the mud because of him. He is actively holding them back with his neglect, with his, you know, like no action is still an action. And so again, Kay's the one that called in. He didn't call in. If he called in, I would be saying like, this is you. But because I'm only working with Kay, I can say it's totally him. And what do we have control over with you? Again, not to victim blame, not to say it's her fault, not to say even that like anything she does is going to cause him to change. And people need consequences to their actions. Like we live in a 3D reality. We live here on earth. Like stop praying about it. Stop just like hoping he'll change. And even like doing things to manipulate the situation. The crazy thing is that when you start standing in your truth, when you start like living in the present, when you start listening to your emotions, like the effect that it has is that it does pop this balloon of delusion also of that this is okay, because it's not okay. It is absolutely not okay. So with Kay, that's like things we can be doing in the meantime. With her situation too, her question, one of her questions was like, so what do I do between now and April? You know, in these 3 months, 4 months of like idle time. You guys didn't see this obviously because I didn't record her face, but like her face kind of lit up when it was like, you know, even if he does make miraculous change in the next 3 months, we don't know if that's permanent. We don't know that. And so you're still going to move, like we're still moving the train in the direction of you and your kids and what's best for you. And I think another light bulb moment for her, and I don't know, Kay will have to say, but like in the moment of your kids are 14 and 17, they can have a say in where they live. And because we know that they see this stuff. We know kids see this stuff. And in like preventing trauma from them, so much of the trauma of divorce is that kids had no say. They had no voice. That's the trauma in this situation, even for Kay with her freaking husband, is like, he's not accepting my influence. That's the issue here. That's like the block here. He's not listening to anything I'm saying. And so anyway, for the kids, like we know that trauma is when people are powerless and helpless, not necessarily just the situation. And so giving them a voice can be empowering. And so that's what we need to do. So, you know, all to say too is not to victim blame, but also to quote, I'm seeing some things happening in the chat now where women are also saying like, being authoritarian with my husband, being top down with him, where I only mess with his behavior and then I walk away over and over. I don't engage in the drama. I call it out and then I walk away. I call it out, then I walk away. I do not care about what's going on with him inside. And I'm not really going inside either. I'm not really open to feedback either because he's not a trustworthy person. So when they're taking this like lay down the law approach, they're saying I got my power back and things have actually worked miracles in my relationship. That's what I'm hearing. Look at my comments. Like I'm not just here, you know, talking to talk. Look at my comments. That's what people are saying. So again, you do what you need to do. Maybe you need more information to feel safe. Maybe you need your own bedroom at this point. You know, maybe that's your step. Maybe your step is meeting with a lawyer to like get the data. Maybe your next step is when he comes home from work today, you're not asking about his day anymore. You're not even like the niceties. We don't even realize like the polite niceties. Like I'm not laughing at his jokes anymore. We don't recognize the things that we do to kind of feed the delusion. And I think what also prevents people from doing this is like, well, I want to be myself. And it's like, yeah, yes. Can you be yourself with everyone else though? And like, because we need to, that's about you and that's not about your family and your kids. Like you know, like I get we need to be ourselves, but being yourself, maybe it's laughing at his joke and then also saying, you know what, I wish I could laugh more freely about this, but I can't because I know it's going to feed your delusion that everything's okay. Okay, so can we live in our multiple truths? Can we live in our complexities of the situation and verbalize that all of the time? All of the time. So like in the morning when you wake up and, you know, it's less about maybe he's less emotionally abusive where he's outright crazy and controlling. It's more about the absence of what he does. But like you wake up in the morning and maybe what feels congruent and authentic to you is saying, you know, I wish we woke up every day and you were curious about my emotional experience. That would be really nice. And that's the marriage that I want. And so you're expressing your desires all of the time. You know, you're not just like correcting behavior, but you're expressing your desires. So, okay, I just saw a comment pop up doing this and it just feeds his narrative about me being the problem. So, okay, first of all, it's good you're doing this. I wonder how it feels for you. Secondly, that's emotionally abusive that you're the problem. Him saying that is emotional abuse. If you stand up for yourself and you have a boundary, you are being emotionally abused. period, full stop. And what that means is that no more intimacy related things. That's what it means. You're not safe if that's the situation. You're being scapegoated. And so again, not to say that this is a you problem and like, oh, by me telling you what to say, that's reinforcing the over functioning here. Because that's not what I'm meaning at all. And you're the one here, you're the one engaging. And so I'm hoping to empower you with some other options. Because here, I mean, I can give you 10 different responses. Like, okay, I'm the problem. Okay, now what? Okay, so I'm the problem. Now I need to go to therapy and fix what? Why don't you come to therapy with me and explain to the therapist what my problem is? You know? Like, okay, like, so like, go with it. Okay, I am part of the problem. And you're not any of the problem, right? Okay, so I'm all the problem. Okay, so you're that codependent then. Like, how do you respond to lies, you know? How do you respond to someone scapegoating you? And here's the deal with women, and going back to Kay's ultimate issue. This is not a dynamic problem, and this is not a you problem. This is bigger than you. This is a systemic problem where men do not have consequences to their actions and in relationships, okay? That's the problem. Men inside and outside of relationships do not have consequences whatsoever proportionate to the ones that women get. Okay? So what you're up against is not, this isn't a marriage problem in a sense. This is a greater systemic issue. And that's what, going back to ultimately what Kay was saying of like, why don't therapists know this stuff? Like, why are therapists pushing EFT? Why are they so abandoned and helpless of like, okay, the model is not working. Like, you guys need to, separate. Like, why are therapists so untrained on this or ignorant to it? And that's like where I've been like, how far deep do I go here? Because there's a lot to say about that. I don't know the one reason. I don't want to come off as this like liberal, whatever, making everything about race and whiteness and whatever. A lot of therapists are white women that don't know their own shit. Okay. Like, unless a therapist has done their own work, which by the way, is not necessarily a requirement in therapy school. By the way, a lot of people don't know this, that looking at yourself and doing therapy a lot of times is not a requirement to be in school to be a therapist. Yeah, I know that's crazy. So you're kind of, a lot of therapists, even people in general, think that other people are the problem and just want to help other people. And I'm good and I do the right thing, so I don't need any help. That's a lot of therapists. I've been talking more about politics and stuff on my page, and I've been clear that I'm left-leaning, fuck ICE, pro every marginalized community, but number one, pro children. And anyway, I've gotten this feedback, which I've been very open to, from the other side, from like Trump supporters, from conservatives that are like, what I hate about liberals and therapists in general is their moral narcissism. And that's been like sitting with me because I'm like, I think that's true on a lot of levels, is like, I'm good and you're bad. And I think it's certainly more complex than that in certain levels. And we need to have conversations with these people. I wish somebody would call into my show one day that thinks that, and we talk about it, because I am very curious about that. And that's really interesting to me. So anyway, all to say is that like therapists are part of the problem, for sure, a big part of the problem. And most therapists are white women. I mean, that was another thing of being in school, and I was learning about all of these models of therapy created by white men. And I'm like, what have they been through to even know? Honestly, and I felt at the time, and I was told this at the time, like how arrogant and all this stuff I was. But I remember being like, so therapists themselves are 90% white women. I don't even know the statistics, honestly. I'm exaggerating maybe. It feels like that. It feels like every effing therapist in the world is a white woman. And that's part of the problem. But I remember being in school, learning about all these different therapy modalities and being like, really? Like, this is a whole therapy modality? This is just this. It's not rocket science, but it is to men. Like, a way of relating to people is like through empathy. And here's all the different ways that they've like structured and procedured about how to relate to people and understand people's problems and help them get to solutions. So I was just like, there is a factor here that's just like, why am I listening to all this stuff? And I mean, this is again part of my story, but I did school part-time for this reason, so I could do my own research. Everyone asks me all the time how I know what I know. Because I read about healing modalities from people other than white people. Okay. I mean, I did. I didn't just listen to what I was taught in school. They actually freed me from that the first class, where they were like, therapy school is not going to teach you everything. You're going to leave this and be like, why didn't I know all that stuff? So I was like, okay, great. I'm free to do my own research, because ultimately, me being a therapist, like, it's my responsibility. It comes down to this relationship, like at each individual relationship. I also need to figure out my own theory of change, which is like, how do people change? And so that's the question, is why are people so stuck in therapy? Why is everything happening in therapy, but nothing in the family system changes unless the man changes? Let me end with this today. I'm like a Gottman. If you guys are familiar with Gottman, it's a therapy modality, but it's also a therapists are trained in it, but it's also like there's a book on like the 7 principles of making marriage work. The Gottmans are 2 people. Julie Gottman and I forget, John Gottman. They did a 40-year longitudinal research study on married couples. It's like the longest research study that's been done. And then they created this therapy modality to help therapists help people based on this research that they did. And John Gottman or Julie Gottman, they say that they can predict divorce with like a 92% accuracy rate the minute they meet people. And if these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, like there's all this shit, all these like, okay, they've defined all these terms about being, what is it? They just talk about all this stuff. You can read about it. It's actually very interesting and people really love it. They talk about all of these things, and yet, the biggest like principle, the biggest like takeaway, and this is my takeaway too. So this, this is also filtered through my lens, but I also don't think it is, because I've read this somewhere. I've read it a lot, but they say that all of this other stuff doesn't matter if the man is not open to the wife's influence. And I think they're scared to say that with their chest. You know what I mean? I think they're scared to say, okay, this is actually a man problem. Like therapy can only do so much. This is a systemic issue. This is a bigger issue than just this microsystem of marriage. Like there are so many, because women, we have kind of everything working against us. And so because of all this pressure on ourselves and our psyche, we've been forced to go inward. We've been forced to internalize in a lot of ways. And men, they do internalize, but they don't have a lot of those same external forces. Like there's no girls will be girls phrase that everybody knows, that doesn't exist. There's boys will be boys. There's, just wait till your daughter, there's all this focus on being scared when your daughter grows up. Like, and that's changing. And I get it's changing, but like therapists are not going to say, and even the Gottmans won't say, they won't come out even like politically, systemically with everything that's going on with all the effing Epstein files. They won't say like, men, there's something going on here. Somebody like Scott Galloway, he's like kind of getting it, kind of, that's great. We'll take it. That's great. It needs to filter down into therapists. And I don't know what I'm going to be doing about this. Like, obviously, there's some advocacy work for me to do, some education work to do in the therapy community. I don't know. I've only had my license a year, honestly. Like, who am I to do this? Therapists are honestly, along with the strange parents, like some of them are my haters because I'm open about this stuff and they don't believe in people going online. It's unethical, all this shit. So that's part of it too. I'll say that why therapists don't speak out about this. Therapists, I think probably more than anyone, any other health profession, are so afraid of hurting people, being unethical, not being seen as good, making mistakes, being vulnerable. ironically, like therapists, if you guys, there is a Reddit group, therapists, like Reddit therapists. And I used to go on there when I was in grad school because I, had all these questions about things, and I got shit on like I've never been bullied in my life. Like, so it's just insane. And so anyway, therapists, I've talked about this with other therapists, the ones that get it. We're like, why is this happening? How are therapists so generally like martyrs and scared to be vulnerable? Like, oh my God, like I've never in my life met people that there's like nobody in there. So listen, again, I get it and I agree. Therapists themselves, like as a culture, it's just like, what do they say? There's something that comes up where I'm like, that's not a flex. They'll say, what do therapists freaking say? They're like, oh, imposter syndrome is like a flex to have. Okay. They're like, don't you like not feel worthy, when dealing with clients, with clients, when they deal with all this stuff, like, doesn't it make you think, wow, how do I deal with this? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. I'm not confident in my ability to treat people. Why are you flexing that? I mean, but again, I'm like, oh my God, am I judging? So that comes up for me too. But the point being is that like, I've been judged because I don't have imposter syndrome. And I'm going on this tangent, but because I'm doing this purposefully to share with you that like, I want to help you deconstruct from therapists and therapy being the authority, because it's not. It's not. And I'm not saying I'm even the authority. I'm just saying I'm saying something, But the point is that therapists themselves don't necessarily go inside. They don't look at themselves. They don't look at the greater system. They don't look at that stuff. So all to say is that you need to trust yourself. And that's the limitation behind this EFT model, is like, that's the limitation. I mean, there are a lot of other therapy models that address these things. I mean, I remember in school being like, why isn't this just standard practice? So anyway, not to say it's all therapists either, because it's not. But there's been enough where there's been terrible experiences where I hear terrible experiences every day. And I'm like, okay, Kate, it's cool. Like, we're going to talk about it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about it. We're going to channel this into something meaningful. So Kay was incredibly bold, brave to speak out. So many women have this issue. So many women are struggling. And if you're in therapy right now and you're with an EFT model, oh, wait, let me go back to Gottman real quick. Somebody I think asked me a question about why I'm not a Gottman hater, but the therapists that use Gottman, some of them can be very, there's not they don't focus on the emotional experience or know what to do with emotional experience. So, it's more like Gottman therapists that are super rigid and like diehard Gottman fans, because it's the research and it's scientific and it's like, they're trying to approach an art, which is therapy. Therapy is an art. They're trying to approach it in a scientific way. And I think that only takes you to a certain point. So again, it's not the Gottman stuff itself. It's the like diehard Gottman people that I'm like, ugh. Okay. So let's look at some comments. Oh, wait. Let me finish my thought. Okay. Lots always happening up here. If you identify with Kay and you are in couples therapy and it's just not working and you're just like, this therapist isn't getting it, what I would really encourage you to do is maybe ask to meet with them one-on-one, or not, but like ask to meet with them one-on-one and say this. You can even share my videos with them and be like, what do you think about this? This is what I'm seeing and experiencing in my relationship. How do you treat this? Like, what do I need to do now? I would really encourage you to have this conversation, because they may see it and their way of dealing with it just isn't as direct. So I would, again, this is about your empowerment and advocacy, but it's like, have a conversation with them about it one-on-one and say, I'm really not feeling like you're getting it. He's not changing, and I need help on a day-to-day with what I can do for boundary's sake. Like, you're allowed, even in couples therapy, to say, I'm actually not interested in what's happening inside of me or him anymore. I just need to find safety. We don't have safety. We don't have emotional safety. We don't have reciprocity. We don't have the bare minimum foundational things. And that's what we need to focus on. All this intimacy stuff, sex, dates, that is so out of my mind right now. And I'm not willing to go there. So I need your help to figure it out. Okay. So that's, if you're in couples therapy, EFT isn't working for you, you're allowed to have that. You're also allowed to abandon it completely and until your husband takes initiative, and you're practicing a top-down approach, you're practicing focusing on yourself. You are dealing with the loneliness you might feel when you stop fixating on him. Like when you're actually doing that hard work of like, who am I if I'm not over functioning? Who am I if I'm not doing all the work? I mean, I got a comment that I actually posted about this morning that was like, people that need to feel more, people that need to feel morally superior because they don't know who they are outside of their values. They don't have a personality, you know, they don't have likes, dislikes. They don't, you know, have fun. So that's the work you need to be doing, is like, how are you having fun in your life? Like that's the direction we need to go. And like, who cares about him at this point? Be top down. Do not worry about his insides. Do not be open to feedback even, because until he becomes a trustworthy person, he's not entitled to that from you just because you're married. Okay. So all to say is Kay is correct, and Kay is living her life. She's the one that's waking up every day as her. So she, you know, ultimately has to figure it out. Let me read some comments here, because this is why I want to go live and stream so I can answer this stuff in real time. Okay. This is the last one I see. I think it's on Facebook. Can you please give pointers at some point to finding a therapist that will actually be helpful? I've never been to therapy, but it's expensive and I want to be careful. Yeah. And I think I heard someone say, I dread finding one. It's hard. Okay. Yeah. You're not alone. First of all, even therapists have trouble finding therapists. Okay. I'll tell you that what I would really encourage, if you want to kind of bet that someone is going to understand the systemic nature of your relationship, I would go for a therapist that's a minority. I mean, in my opinion, you have a better chance of getting someone that gets it if they get it. And maybe, so that's something to look for. Just saying, something to look for. It's not like their minority status obviously means that they are aware of this. It means that like they have lived it. And so they live this systemic imbalance every single day. So I would say look for one, maybe that's a minority. Look for one too that is trained in somatic exercises. So EMDR, brain spotting, somatic experiencing, what else? I think those are kind of the main ones. So a minority, someone that's trained in somatic stuff. I like EFT, emotionally focused therapy. I like Gottman stuff. Okay. So those are kind of some pointers of a direction to go. Now here's then what I'll say is therapy is expensive. More and more therapists are taking insurance nowadays. There's also platforms like Headway and Alma where you can search therapists that take your insurance. Psychologytoday.com is the Google for therapists. So like everybody I know of like has a Psychology Today profile where you can watch their little corny 15-second video of like them introducing themselves. And don't judge them on that, by the way. A lot of therapists especially are not for the cameras, or the cameras are not for them. So don't judge them off of that. But what you need to do with all of these people is ask them for a free consultation. And most therapists do this, where if you ask them like, hey, I'm interested in meeting you, I'm interested in doing therapy, like, can I ask you a couple questions and I want to hear from you. So you can feel out every therapist. And this is a very important thing. Now, here's the information that you are evaluating the situation with. You're evaluating the situation with, how do I feel with this person? Do they get me? Do I like what they're saying? Because the research says, okay, this is research, you know, I'm not against it, but like this is really actually important. This is like one of the few proven things over and over and over again when it comes to therapy and the therapeutic relationship, is that Only 20%. So if you want a positive client outcome, so if you want to leave therapy having met all your goals, here's what contributes to that. Only 20% of that is the therapist training, the modality they use, and that stuff's important. Like if somatic, emotional stuff, if you're an intellectualizer, you need someone somatic. So that's obviously important. That is a factor, is that you're finding someone with the right modality. 80% of it, though, is the relationship. 80%. 80 freaking percent. What is that? 4/5. That like the vast majority of it is based on your relationship. Meaning, do you like them? Do you trust them? Are they honest with you? Do they see the systems you are seeing? Are they, are you getting what you need? So that's like the relationship is obviously you showing up, it's them showing up, but it's the relationship. And it's if you like them, if you trust them, if you are learning, if you're growing, so that's 80% of it. So when you're doing these consults with them, ask yourself like, oh, how did I feel after that call? Like you should feel good. And this is it can take time to find a therapist. Cause like I said, most people struggle, like therapists themselves struggle with this. The idea too is like your therapist, like they're not going to be the authority, the God of your life, right? I've had therapists, like I've had 3 really good ones at different periods in my life that like met the needs. And I remember my last one, I remember sometimes being like, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I don't really like the way she did that, but it met the needs I had at the time. Now in my head, I'm like, that's a really healthy way of looking at it. Is this person isn't here to save me. They're here to offer what they can offer. And do I feel safe with them? Do I like them? And, so all to say is like that, go in and be like, what do I need? What do I need from this person? As much as you can put it into words. And a good therapist, I think, will make sure that you're getting what you need, and that a good therapist will kind of treat you like that you don't know what you don't know, and so they need to help fill in some gaps. So all to say is that I get it can totally be overwhelming. It's needle in a haystack. It can be, and it's so worth it if you find one that's right. I mean, they're game changers. So there's that. Okay, let me look at some comments. With how prevalent AI is, are you worried to have a job in the near future just because AI is going to make access to information like therapy more accessible? Oh my God, I don't know. I personally am not worried about it. I have a lot of clients that use ChatGPT for help, and I'm happy for them. I think for anything, it's a tool that helps people feel validated. I think it definitely has flaws. And I will say, obviously going to a therapist, like as much as therapists are scared to hurt people, and they feel they can have an unhealthy sense of responsibility, and they can be scared to be unethical. That's also a really good thing that therapists themselves, like we are, I think as a culture, like very ethical, very protective of clients. Like I think therapists are very, very protective of clients with each other, like at the expense of relationships with each other. So I'm not worried about AI. I'm not worried to have a job. I think you cannot replace human connection. I also did a class when I was in college. I went to UNC. I majored in psychology, and one of my classes, I think it was my senior year, was like on computers and humans, and it was a psychology class, and it was the question of the class basically was like, can technology replace humans? And the answer ultimately that we discovered was no, and that's insane. So again, I think AI, like with anything, it could be a great tool. I know it's a controversial thing. People hate it. I have some like conspiracy theories about it, but as it relates to like me and my job, no, I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about the general public though, because it's kind of had some bad outcomes in some ways. So let's see. It makes me upset that part of the training for the profession is not personal counseling. I think that should be a requirement. Yeah, 100%. And therapy doesn't mean enlightenment. People, like I thought about this during COVID too. I was working this sales job and I got laid off during COVID, and I was in school part-time. And so I was unemployed for a little bit, and that was like the biggest gift in the world because I could really focus on what I was learning. And as I was looking around me at the other students in my class, like all of them, they had kids, they had lives, they had full-time jobs, and they're in school. So it's like they're not having time or space to let this absorb, even if therapy was a requirement, like, you know what I'm saying? So I 1,000% agree. And I will say, I don't know, what comes to mind too is like in other fields, like, do you have to be healthy to be a doctor? I don't know. I don't really care about that, but that's what comes up. Okay. Let me see. Any other comments from people? Can you speak on how we can ask how they align politically? I have preferences. Yeah, I think that's a really open question that a lot of therapists would be open to. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal. I think therapy is kind of like it is with a parent-child relationship, whereas you're the child. Like, you can ask them anything. They're the ones that are supposed to have boundaries and like say no or help you understand why that's important to you. Like, you can ask anything. Actually, when I've had clients that have asked me personal things and I've answered in a way, obviously, that's helpful to them, it's not like I'm like, oh, great, roles reverse, it's my therapy session. It's been like the most helpful. So please ask them. I would very much encourage you to ask. Oh, wait. Okay. I've given you more than any therapist I've paid for. Dang, that's crazy. That's sad to me. That's cool. I appreciate it, but that's sad to me. Let's see. Oh, wait. I haven't even looked at Instagram. Okay. Our counselor talks about not putting up walls, so I keep feeling like I can't protect myself emotionally. Can you address that? Oh. Maybe you can say, well, my walls are there because I don't feel safe. Advocate for yourself even with your therapist. Advocate for yourself even with your therapist. For a couples therapist, how do I ensure that my husband's needs are being met, just not my own? Well, that's your husband's job, by the way. That's not your job. I found my therapist on Psychology Today. She's the best. Yes. Love to see Brain Spotting getting some airtime. Yes. I like people who use multiple modalities. Yeah. That's a good sign. People that for therapists that use multiple modalities. Okay. Great. Everybody. Okay, I'm scrolling up on Instagram. Sorry, I've kind of neglected you. My therapist didn't even want to answer my question if she had kids. Oh, that makes me laugh kind of because the way that we're trained, and this is kind of funny, I've had to overcome my own stuff with this. The way that we're trained, again, because this is around ethics, is it's very important that we maintain a relationship that is about the client. And there can be some gray areas about accepting gifts, for example, or revealing personal information. And what people need to know about ethics, so there's laws around therapy, and then there's ethics. And ethics, a lot of it is a gray area. Yet some people take it very black and white. I think out of safety, out of fear, out of their own preference, whatever. My therapist didn't even want to answer my question if she had kids. So a lot of people, again, so because I post online, I'm very familiar with ethics. Like, I've had to do it. I don't know if I worked for a group practice, where everyone did things for me, like that I would feel that responsibility. I don't know. But all to say is that that makes me laugh because I'm like, girl, just be a human. That's what, like, 80% of this is the relationship. Just be a fucking human, for God's sake. So there is a point of like, a therapist is going to tell you, if you ask them a personal question, yeah, they're going to tell you like, okay, why does it matter to you? Why is that important to you? So that they help you understand you. And I think for the relationship that they should still answer that. They don't have to be totally transparent, but I think they should still answer it. That's just me. Oh God, not Scott Galloway. That's funny. I'm just saying that. So I need to do this better next time where I can see things live. I wish I had two brains. Let me see if I've got anything. Okay. No, I haven't. Okay, wait, let me see anything new. Anyone else have any questions about couples therapy and therapy in general? I'm happy to help you with that. That's what this is all about. Okay, just started EFT for couples and thought it would be finally the missing piece to our puzzle. We're about 8 sessions in and I'm seeing the same pattern showing up and losing hope. Any thoughts? Yeah, tell that to your therapist. This is not changing. This is not working. And so this is what I would ask is like, and your therapist might not, I think I have a different personality in a lot of ways than other therapists. Like I'm very much more commanding and this is like how we're going to do it. I'm very like leading in that way. Whereas some therapists I think can come off as very like passive. Like, what do you want to talk about today? So all to say is that a lot of times when therapists are that way, clients are put in a position more to advocate for themselves. But so advocate for yourself, but also couples therapy is only 1 hour a week. There's great principles in it, but again, therapy doesn't mean enlightenment. I think enlightenment comes from pressure in the environment and your environment not working for you anymore. Why are so many women flooding therapy? Because their environment is not working. And women in particular struggle with this. Is it me? Is it him? Like women, I can't tell you. I mean, even with Kay, 23 years of kind of thinking she's the problem. You know what I'm saying? In a way, not necessarily in a black or white way, but not viewing her husband's inaction as the majority of the problem. People are scared to say that. I'm not scared to say it because it's true. I saw one above. You skipped over about someone who told her husband she just wasn't feeling connected and he didn't respond. Yeah, I mean, what did I skip over? Respond back. I want to hear that. How do we explain protect kids around being top down with dad? I don't think you need to protect your kids from them watching you have boundaries with another adult. If like your kids are seeing it anyway, they're sensing it. I think being top down with an adult is like, hey, I need to talk to you over here for a second. You can do that. Like, I'm not going to do this in front of the kids. You can say that too. Ultimately, I've thought a lot about that. And where like the kids in this situation, obviously, that's like all I think about. Oh, I don't want to start things in front of the kids. Oh, I know he's going to do this in front of the kids. Your kids, you're the adult in the situation and you're being emotionally abused. You either need to leave or you need to stand up to them stand up to him in front of them. You know what I mean? Like they need to see that this behavior isn't okay. I would do that. If my husband was mistreating me in front of my daughter, I would be like, excuse me, you will not talk to me that way. And if he goes on, I would take my daughter, I would leave the room and say, until you can behave and speak to me respectfully, we will not be having a conversation. That's what I would do. Absolutely not. Kids need to see the bully not win. And you don't need to engage in the drama. That's the other thing. We're not arguing in front of the kids. Like, that's not what I'm telling you to do, is like fight in front of them. If you're dealing with someone who will not accept your influence and they're belittling you, they're being disrespectful to you in front of your children need to see you stand up to them if it's safe for you to do so. And that's kind of my opinion. Or if this is directly hurting them, we got to protect them at all costs. So that's my opinion about that. Is, again, because we're not engaging in drama. We're not arguing. We're just saying, like, okay, you cannot talk to me like that. Like, that's not okay. Here's the boundary and the consequence. Like, I'm leaving the room. I'm taking the kids, or you need to leave. Okay. And if he continues arguing, being like, okay, I'm going to leave, and we're going to talk about this later. And if they never bring it back, that's emotional abandonment. I mean, that's legal grounds for divorce, just to say. Like, not encouraging divorce, but just saying, like, stand on business like that. Like, next time, like, stop having sex with him. Stop doing his laundry. Stop doing, like, he is degrading you. We're not doing those things for him anymore. We're not feeding the delusion that everything's okay. A lot of people are terrified to do this type of thing, understandably, and that's why I'm telling you to get more information. Y'all saw the questions I asked Kay yesterday, where I was like, are you physically safe? Like, does he hit stuff? Like, does he throw stuff? And she was like, no, but he's de-escalated, but that's because we're also on eggshells. And it's like, okay, well, we need to figure out what you're willing to do if he does get physical, or, like, we need safety first. But we can also take a realistic assessment of the situation. Like, this isn't an episode of Snapped. You know what I mean? Like, where that's necessarily going to happen. And also, like, I want to ask you how much time you're spending engaging in not fear mongering, but like fearful content. Like, and what part that's playing. Like, am I really fearful, or am I just really exposed to this? Is it both? How much of it, My husband does receive my influence and then tries to connect like we're totally fine. I don't know how not to walk up when he's in La La Land. Oh, my husband doesn't receive my influence and then tries to connect. Yeah, absolutely not. We're not connecting until we talk about this. And if he doesn't want to do that, I'm guessing connect is like either emotionally or sexually. Doors closed, honey. I'm not ignoring this dysfunction. I'm not committed to this dysfunction. We're not doing that. Let me just say this also in the same breath. The amount of comments I've gotten from women and even men, they're like, oh, I actually respected her when she did that. Oh, I actually gained some self-respect when I didn't have sex with him after he yelled at me earlier. Like, we're not doing that. And a lot of people, okay, so the question is like, why are you saying yes to that? What is that in you? Is it because you're lonely? Is it because you don't have anything else? Is it because you can't be there for yourself? Like, what is that about? That there's this like pull when he does want to, that you have to accept the breadcrumbs and like act like that's your full, and it's a full meal. You know what I mean? Where does that come from? Emotionally, our counselor keeps saying to share our feelings. We do, and it goes nowhere. I don't know. Honestly, I need more context. He says your feelings are valid and he won't make space for me. What does that mean? I would encourage you, hey, call into my show. Call into my show. We'll talk this through. Sign up on my website, codependencykate.com. It's free. You sign some waivers and we can set you up. Grew up in a household where the bully man always won and mom never stood up for herself or us. All my male siblings now don't respect their female partners and use bully-like behavior towards them. The cycle continues. I'm sorry for snorting. Sex was the only way to have an emotional connection. Yeah, that's a man problem. That's not a marriage problem. So I felt very judged by my therapist. And while she motivated me, I ultimately stopped because I didn't like feeling like therapy. Yeah. Good for you, girl. Good for you. I think my husband's counselor is horrible because he's still in training and being supervised and everything's so black and white. He's like pretty much similar personality. Okay. I would say if that's your situation, ask to join a session to see what's going on. I would not discount this person because he's in training and being supervised, by the way. Some of the best therapists are new and in training because they, inherently like they're green and they're open and they're eager. So I wouldn't judge somebody based on that. But I get that I get that that's obviously what comes up when you're like, oh, this isn't working. La la la. I'm watching this waiting for my couples counseling to start. I'm severely chronically ill. I've been physically hurting myself just trying to get my boundaries respected and understood. Ooh. Yep. Very common experience. I'm so sorry for that. I'm going to reframe that for you though. Do you respect your boundaries also? Like your boundaries are about you, So let's see. I'm trying to get my boundaries respected and understood by endlessly talking about it. Okay. We figured out the problem. No more talking, only action. Not no more talking, but let's habit stack. If you're talking, we need an action as well. If you find yourself over-explaining, over-functioning, leave. What's the action? All right. Been with my husband 20 years. Kids 21 and 16. After 8 to 10 years, I stopped all these things, laundry, making food, but without knowing how to set boundaries and not self-abandon. Yeah, you're so right. There's like check boxes. You're so right. Without it, he became the one thinking he was better than me. That's always so funny to me. Look at how much he does. Oh my goodness gracious, people. I'm so with you. Like, what an amazing community of women that get it. And there are some men. There were some that engaged yesterday. Yes. All right. Everybody, I feel like I'm like coughing too much and my nose is getting stopped up. So I'm not going to subject you guys to this. This was really fun. We're going to do this again tomorrow. We actually this wasn't fun. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be insensitive. This is obviously it's always bittersweet to engage about this stuff because I love connecting with you guys. And the content of this is just why I do what I do with clients and online. So, anyway, thank you guys for engaging. I'm going to be doing this every single Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And we're going to have some calls some days. We're going to be talking like this some days. I'm going to be responding to my own social media content, doing like a full class on educating you, kind of like I did at the beginning. And so I'm going to be doing this every day at 10:30 Central. And if you guys engage, the more you engage, the longer I'll stay, I think I have like 45 minutes in my tank to just talk. So if you guys engage, we can make it longer. This is really good. Things are changing. The more you are becoming and listening to yourself, the more you're staying a student of yourself and your life and detaching from these parts of you that like make you that are not helpful anymore, like being good, being kind, respectful. The stuff's important. You also need that part of you that is your survival instinct. We need that. Okay. So y'all are doing great work. This is tough and we'll keep doing it all together. And I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a caller and hopefully, we'll see if it works out. Sometimes there's tech issues. Sometimes people have other stuff that come up. So understandably so. So we have another caller tomorrow and then that'll end our week of this Class with Kate.